What's great about this, Jamil, is we did those first 5 videos and we really broke down like all the concepts, all the ideas. And now what would be great is to continue adding to this series where we're actually showing now how we do this. And you get to actually hear a live call. Let's pause it and break down like what happened just now, maybe explain a little bit why I said what I did. I'd love your feedback. I'd love if you got any suggestions about, well, maybe you could have said it like this. So this will be like real world learning for you guys viewing right now. And again, Jamil and I want to keep adding to this masterclass so that it becomes just your go-to when you want to learn the agent model for wholesaling. Guys, by the way, leave us a comment and let us know your big takeaways, what you're learning. I think what would be great, Jamil, is let me set the context to this call, first, and then we'll jump onto the call and we'll listen to it. So this was a property that had been listed for a while. The agent listed this property. It's a seller that's in a nursing home. They're elderly. It's vacant, and he owns it free and clear, and he just wants to sell this property. So they start out at a fairly retail price. They started out at about $235 on the listing. ARV fixed up is around $290, maybe $300. So they definitely listed it to sell. They listed it in so that it's reflecting the condition. It's a really clean house. It needs some refinished wood floors, some paint. The kitchen's okay. It's got appliances included, but it's got one issue that caused them all the trouble, and that's it. It's on a basement, and it's a wet basement. And this is in Metro Detroit. And in Metro Detroit, soggy basements are like the kiss of death. Like buyers, they do not want to buy a home that's got a soggy basement. It just is a big turnoff.
Weather-related thing, like once it freezes, it's going to get really problematic. And is it a common problem in Detroit for there to be a soggy basement? Is this like something that people talk about? Like, hey, is this got a soggy basement? And they know it's like, in Arizona, we know about, where the sun exposure is. Is it like that out there?
Definitely. Yeah. So basements they come up, they're a big issue. Buyers will back out of deals if they've got these kind of wet basements, and it's a block basement, home built in the 1940s. So what's happening is the moisture's coming in through the mortar, and it'll create some mold, not the dangerous mold, but it's still mold. You'll have wet on the floor sometimes. People are worrying about their stuff down there. It's just an issue. Now, because of that, I'm very used to wet basements. In fact, I've got an awesome basement guy. You'll see on the call here where we talk about this, but he can fix really any basement issue. It just costs money, but I love it because it's scary for everybody else, easy for me. And what it did is it allowed this listing to not sell. Mm-hmm. And so what they did is they just kept dropping the price. So they went from $235, $225, $215, $205. And finally at $195, the agent's talking to the seller, and the seller basically says to the agent, I want this thing gone. I'll take $180. So agent then calls back my son, Jonathan, who's been staying in touch with her. And he says, hey, calling you, let you know that seller will take $180.
Tell me where it started with John reaching out, right? So at what price point did Jonathan make the first call?
It was still up in the 200s.
Okay.
Because he saw that it needed some work. And he introduced himself, made the connection. At that time, the seller wasn't really ready to dance. So he just did all the right things, right? Stayed in touch. And now this agent wasn't exclusive to Jonathan. You'll see on the call here, the seller said, get it sold. And so she's reaching out now to interested people that showed interest previously. And so we actually competed against 2 solid offers. And we'll talk more about this in a minute, but they were even higher than our offer that we were competing with. Now,
what number was it reduced to when she started reaching out? Because it's important for us to know, especially if you're going to wholesale a property, what it's showing listed at. Because again, buyers really need to see that gap between list to where you're trying to wholesale a property to show your value that you brought to the table. Even if a property is really well priced, but if the gap from list price to contract price isn't big enough, a buyer always feels that they could have done that themselves. And if they feel they could have done that themselves, you haven't proven your worth as a wholesaler. So where were we listed at when the agent started to come out looking for offers?
Yeah, not where I want. It's at 195 and we're at 170. So, a little bit of room there. I would have liked her to have started that conversation when they were still at 205,
right?
Or even higher, but they kept hoping that they could get a buyer. So it was at 195 when we started now the conversation.
Okay. And were you confident, regardless of what, at 195 to where you land, are you confident with that gap that either A, you can take down, fix, flip, or wholesale it so that that doesn't really become a factor for you?
Fortunately for me, because I've been doing deals there for 20 years, I'm okay either way. Like, I'll buy it and do the thing and flip it, because I'll spend 25 on this, counting the basement repair, and I think I could resell it for around 290. And so, I'll make 40, 50 grand and I could turn that pretty quick because it's a very cosmetic rehab. So I'm okay there. But what I really want to do is I want to wholesale it more than anything for Jonathan to see him go through the process and do it. So, but I mean, I think it's a 10K type of deal. It's not a monster deal. It's not I'd love to be at 150 or 160 really, but
sure,
it's an existing on-market property. It's not the situation that we've talked about in the masterclass where the agent brings it to you off market. That would have been a dream come true.
Right.
So whenever you're dealing with like it's already listed, typically you can get good deals there, but I find that around a 10, maybe 15K is about as much as you're going to get, because that agent is going to protect as much of that equity as they can.
For sure. Now, your, again, list price where it's sitting right now is 195, and and we'll learn this through the call, guys. He's in contract at 170. He's talking about maybe going out at 179.9, so about a $10,000 assignment fee, which is still a pretty good gap. It's about a $15,000 gap from sale price to list price, knowing that they're good either way. So there's a level of confidence that Jerry's bringing to his buyer, because his buyer, when he sends this out to his list, it's really important that your buyers understand your capacity to close, or at least they feel that that they can't wait you out, because that's something buyers will do to wholesalers, especially if they feel like you can't close a deal. They'll say, okay, well, I like this deal and I would buy it from this wholesaler, but a lot of buyers, they can get a little greedy sometimes. Not all of them, but they can. And they'll play the game, right? They'll say, well, I'm just going to wait this wholesaler out, because if I can get this myself, if this wholesaler can't close on this deal and I can go in and get it at the wholesale price or the price the wholesaler's locked it up at, I save 10 grand. So it's really important when Jerry's marketing this to his buyers that they understand that he's taking this thing down regardless. He's already got a bid on how much it's going to cost to fix the soggy bottom, and so he's going to get that thing handled. But what do you think a soggy bottom, and I'm going to call it that for the remainder of the video because why not? What does a soggy bottom typically cost to fix up?
So I had our basement guy go out there that very day, and he quoted $7,500 to fix the entire basement situation.
Not bad at all. How much have you seen them get to in terms of cost?
In my mind, when I was doing this call, I was like, this is a 10K problem that we can solve for 10K. Yeah. So he came back, hard bid in writing for 7,500. And that's to solve the entire issue. They do straps and all this. It's awesome. Like it'll solve it completely. And what you're saying there, Jamil, is so true. In fact, I ended up getting the contract for 170, and she had 2 other written cash offers for 175.
Wow.
So I already know I can at least do a 5K and just move it if I had to.
Sure.
Because I already have 2 bona fide offers from other flippers. And she said they're flippers. They're not wholesalers. They're flippers. And this was in our, this was a follow-up call. So that wasn't unveiled in this call. What you'll hear in this call is she says, hey, I really like you. I want you to get the deal. Right. Yeah. And so she did. She did. She gave me the deal. So when she sat down with the seller, she had to meet him at the nursing home. And she said, look, I've got 3 offers here. I'm going to print off and meet you and sign the one that I think is the best offer with the most certainty. Are you okay with that? And he's like, yeah, I trust you to choose the best one. So
guys, just so you hear this, price isn't always it.
No.
Right. Mm-hmm. So how did Jerry build $5,000 worth of confidence? Because this agent could have taken a $5,000 greater offer, right? But Jerry built the confidence, which ended up saving him money. So I really need you guys to wrap your head around this, that your confidence and how you portray yourself to the agent is worth actual dollars, real money, because they forego $275,000 offers in support of a lower offer out of sheer confidence that Jerry could perform. So I think without further ado, let's get this thing on the screen here and let's listen to it. You guys are going to get really, really, really well trained hearing how, and this is follow-up call. So guys, remember the tennis match we talked about during the masterclass? We talked about playing the long game, never giving up, always knowing that your first offer is basically your serve. It's going to take some time and volleys going back and forth. This thing was in the 200s. Jonathan reached out in the 200s. This is the follow-up. Jonathan had to bring in the big guns because the agent was really getting to the nitty-gritty and wanted to make sure that this thing was going to stick. Here we go.
Hi, Laura. This is Jerry. How are you?
Hey, Jerry. Doing well. Thanks for the call.
Yeah. So we really are interested in this property. Thank you for sending those pictures of the basement. We've dealt with a lot of soggy basements. It's pretty common in Michigan.
Yep.
So I've got a really good basement guy, and he can pretty much take care of any type of basement issue. I just don't know what it's going to cost. Do you know, is there a sump pump system down there?
There is no sump pump that I'm aware of.
Okay.
What exists is the regular sewer sanitary drain. And I was just there with a plumber last week, and he ran the water down there, and there's no.
So right out the gate, Jerry, I want to just, look at the level of knowledge, right? Because Jerry's talking right away about a sump pump. For those of you that don't know what a sump pump is, that's when a water gets into a basement, it pumps the water out. Jerry knows that they're used in basements to stop a flood from happening. The agent, however, the agent knows what she's talking about. So we've got a knowledgeable agent who's so involved in the repairs of this property that she's gone and brought a plumber in to see what the specifics are of what's going to need to happen in this property. So there's no pulling the wool over this lady's eyes, not that you'd want to, but this is where really understanding a little bit of basic construction and your market, knowing common problems in a specific market is really important, because if you didn't know about the soggy bottoms, and if you didn't know about the sump pumps, and you didn't realize that these were things that were common in Michigan, you would miss the opportunity to really drive home your expertise and get the property.
Yeah. Another point here to make, Jamil, is right out of the gate, I'm hyper focusing on the problem. And this is strategic. It's very strategic. Like, we're not talking about the seller's motivation, anything. I'm approaching her from the perspective of a buyer, and I'm very concerned about this basement. And I know that because she revealed the reason why it isn't selling is because we've had showings. They see the basement, they don't want it. So now I'm leveraging that information about this basement problem to justify my price.
Right.
Okay. So and you got
the uncertainty of it is really important too, because he's like, I just don't know what this is going to cost me.
Yeah.
And so the uncertainty right there is what gives Jerry leverage, because it could be $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 to fix the problem. So leaving that open just provides a runway for Jerry and his price negotiations.
That he also checked the 4 cleanouts for the B-Dry system. So as far as he could tell, the B-Dry waterproofing system that protects it, of course, against the floor and the wall where the app meets around the perimeter, he says that's intact. The water that was coming in, he believes, is through some of the cracks in the block and the mortar. And maybe one glass block window leaking down. So he was showing me, where he could see the signs of the leaks. And again, this basement wasn't full of an inch of water when I was there. It was just moist around, the walls after the torrential downpour.
Yeah, it's something you definitely want to get your head around, because if we flip it, then the biggest thing that scares buyers away is soggy basements, So we'd want to really get that solved. And that's the only thing. If it wasn't for that, then it's a fairly cosmetic rehab. Everything else is pretty cut and dry, nothing too tricky or expensive or scary. So, and we're cash, we can close in 30 days. I can show you proof of funds. I can put down a decent earnest money. We can make it happen. What's the interest been like so far? I know you're reaching out to a few other people. Okay, pause it. Stop it there, Bobby. Jamil, powerful question. What do you think about that question? What's the interest been so far?
I love it, right? Because what you're gaining is knowledge of where you need to be. Because, you know, the reality is that an agent might be honest here or they might be dishonest here. I've seen it go both ways. Where right now, out the gate, I feel that this agent is very ethical, very honest, very straightforward. She doesn't pull, you know, she's not trying to play any games. She's not creating, you know, fake FOMO or anything like that. She's just straight to the point. And so you got right to it as well. You were wanting to see, okay, well, where are the levels of interest so that I can position myself in a way that's going to be advantageous to myself, you, and the seller, so I can come in with a number that's competitive but not overpay. And that is a really fair question, but also look at all the information you're able to gain from that.
Yeah, to add to that, sometimes agents they'll open up and they'll reveal, well, we've had this many offers, they're at this price point. You know, like they'll just open up and reveal all this information. Sometimes they won't. You know, you got to ask questions. And then if they don't give you very much, I like to ask follow-up questions and keep asking questions. This part right now of discovery is absolutely critical because I need to gauge the interest in the market, because at the end of the day, I need to, if I'm going to take this deal to market, I need to know what buyers in the market are at. And this has been sitting around a while so that we know that there's been buyers that have come and looked at this property. And I need to know, okay, well, what are the cash buyers think about this that you've dealt with so far? And if sometimes if a property could go retail, I want to know that as well. I'm just trying to gauge value based on her experience so far. Nothing is more valuable than real-time feedback based on showings that she's open to share about. So, you know, ask the question, be ready for any type of response from a lot to a little, and be prepared to keep extracting information in the form of just good questions, right? So that's why I'm transitioning now to, okay, we've got this basement kind of issue. We've identified that that's a problem. Now let's talk about what the market's doing on her, based on her experience so far.
It's great.
People over there this afternoon, and then another local agent I worked with who has an investor who's not scared of basement issues.
Yeah.
He said he's taking this guy over this afternoon too. So we're having a couple people check it out who might want to throw their hat in the ring on this one.
Gotcha. Tell me how you want to handle buyer's commission. I have a real estate license in Michigan. But
look, we're in a new normal right now with the world of buyer's agency and how this commission is going to get dealt with. And Jerry got right to it, right? He asked the question, write this down, write the line down that Jerry said there. How are you planning to deal with buyer's agent commission? Because it's important that you broach the subject right out the gate, because agents are uncomfortable talking about it. And they don't know how to handle the situation. They don't know how to get their buyers or potential buyers to understand the new normal on how these transactions are going, because even the agents don't know how it's supposed to work, right? And so that was a really great question to ask, is, you know, what are you planning to do about the buyer's agent's commission? And guys, this is new from August 1st. This is in regards to the NAR settlement, where it's no longer implied that a seller is going to pay a buyer's agent's commission. And so that needs to be handled between a buyer's agent and a buyer before they'll even show you a property, or before they'll even discuss the property further with you. So it was really good that Jerry just got that to the point right away.
Yeah, you have to ask it differently. You know, before, and we'll talk about it here in a minute when we listen to the call again, but before, there was an assumption that there's a 3% buyer commission that's available, that's up for grabs, because before it was predetermined. And so we could just go right into, hey, you know, I'll let you represent me. You can get that buyer's agent commission. Now we can't have that assumption. Now we have to talk about it. So that's why instead of saying, hey, I'll let you have it, I have to say, hey, what do you want to do about it? How do you want to handle it? I'm unrepresented. How do you want to handle this? Because now it's just open for negotiation. Right. I could pay it. We could waive it. The seller could pay it. It's all up for grabs now.
So let's just spell it out, guys. What are the things that could happen, right? Jerry just said, I could pay it. Okay. The seller could pay it, or we don't pay it at all, and I come in represented. So these are the three options. So know that these three options are what's going to happen. Now, if Jerry says, I can pay it, and they say, okay, what does Jerry's offer have to be? Jerry's offer has to be a little bit lower to compensate to be able to pay the agent. If the agent says the seller will pay it, Jerry's offer can be exactly where he wanted to be in the first place. And if he says, I'm going to come in unrepresented, then it's off the table and the seller gets it. So it's a benefit to the seller.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Now she's unfamiliar with this. So listen to how I explain this to her. I don't use it because I'd rather come unrepresented and let you have that side of the commission. Are you able to do that?
First of all, I wouldn't take more than what I've already, my 3%. So they're willing to pay 3% to a buyer's agent. Or if you wanted us to just, I've talked to him just about the net. If they're not paying a buyer's agent,
right,
then your offer is that much stronger. So
yeah,
whichever way, but I don't keep that additional 3%. It's the seller that benefits.
So that's about $5,000-ish, you know?
Yeah, exactly. This is a friend's father. So trying to help him so he could sleep at night.
So you would rather take that 2.5%, 3% buyer side, you know, bottom line, it would be that much less asking for the seller to pay in commission.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. No way am I collecting any more than.
Is that just in this situation, or is that your policy all the time?
It's become my norm. I do so much.
Let's stop there. So the reason why, if you guys catch it, the reason why she doesn't want to dual represent is because it's a friend of a family, and she doesn't want the seller to feel like she's taking advantage of the situation. Now, I don't think she's taking advantage of the situation. If she did decide to do that, I have no problem whatsoever with that. I think that's totally fine. Why would you not? You're, you know, in essence, she found us. She reached out. We're working with her, right? But in her mind, she made a decision that I don't want to double end it. I'd rather just get my paid from the seller, and we'll leave that other side unpaid for up, you know, basically less to the seller, right? Now, the reason why I asked that question was because, is this unique to the situation? Because I'm more interested, remember guys, of the masterclass, we're more interested in the relationship than the deal. So what I need to know is that her standard policy like all the time, or is she open to a different arrangement in a different situation?
And almost everyone is a friend or family at the end of the day.
Okay. The reason why I ask is because we do that so that we can create a long-term strategic relationship.
Right.
Because if you know that you can get compensated well, you know, by working with us, then we're the ones you call when you get a distressed property. You know, the perfect situation is you sit down with a seller, and prior to going active, you give us a call. And if the number meets the seller's needs, then we can take care of everything off market. If that situation fits, then that's
right, guys, right there. Jerry just went for the future pocket listing, right? Yeah. So he just laid the foundation of what the next deal looks like. He said, look, in the perfect situation, you sit down with a seller, you figure out where it needs to be, and you come right to me, and you make double the commission. You represent me as the buyer's agent. You do the listing, or you take care of the seller on the listing side, and we handle this entire thing off market, which again, guys, remember, agent outreach is not an on-market strategy solely. It's also an off-market strategy when you get the pocket listings that haven't been listed yet. And that's the sweetest type of deal you can do, because now you've got an off-market situation. You got an off-market property that you didn't pay $7,000 or $10,000 on the contract for your cold calling and for your list and for your pay-per-click and all the other nonsense that you got to pay to get these things under contract. You actually got a sweet off-market deal for no cost in your lead generation, which in my opinion is the holy grail of lead gen and wholesale.
Yeah. It is the holy grail. In fact, Jamil, like I look at this deal, and it's not the best deal, clearly, like I've ever done, right? Because I think I could probably squeak out a $10K wholesale fee on this one. It's a decent flip, you know. So it's an okay deal, but more than anything, I want to perform on this deal. I want to get this deal done. I want to have a transaction with her, because now I can train her on how to bring me leads like this one off market. And that's the holy grail. That's what we're after ultimately, because if she could bring me 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 deals a year that are off market, the way you just explained it, now that's hundreds of thousands and eventually millions of dollars in revenue.
Right. And like, how much are you going to have to pay her hourly to work for you, Jerry?
0.
And how much are you going to have to pay for all of her lists and all of her cell phone and all the other things that you got to take care of?
Zero. Yeah.
Let's just say that it's zero. It's the best.
Yeah. That's what we're after. Guys, if you can play the long game here and go for that relationship, that's what this is really all about. You got to play the long game. Like, I like to call on these ones and like to create the relationships. It's a good reason to call. You know, maybe we get a deal like this one, you know, but ultimately it's not about this. It's not about this deal right here. It's about now making this connection with her and getting future business off market. That's what it's really about. That's ideal.
Yeah. Obviously saves me weeks of my life. I'm a single mom, so to stop running over and showing houses, that's a win-win.
And they're hard because, you know, they need work and you get buyers and inspections and appraisals and all the things. We can avoid all of that. And it doesn't have to be a commission from the seller, you know, especially with the new NAR guidelines. We're more than happy to pay a buyer's agent commission to you directly. That way it's not coming from the seller. Is that something you would do too? I mean, would that change the situation for you?
If I wasn't collecting out of his proceeds?
Right.
Yeah. I'm just now wrapping my mind around how these settlements are changing the way we do business.
Oh, well, when it went into effect like 2 days ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Or yesterday, actually.
My background is education, working with kids well before it was in the sales business. So I've always just operated under do the right thing and the money will follow.
Yeah, that's a good policy.
I need to have these conversations so I can understand how to best position myself and my client.
Stop. Look at this. The agent, for all of you out there who have this idea in your head that there's an adversarial relationship between investors and real estate agents, we have an agent right now who's admitting that she's learning from this conversation and now is getting her education on how to wrap her head around this entire process now that it's changed. And these conversations are important to her because they're giving her context and they're giving her information on how to move forward in how she's operating. And so, again, just I want to highlight that so that you can remove that limit, that untrue belief in your mind that tells you agents don't want to work with investors, agents don't want to work with wholesalers, agents don't want to work with people that are cash buyers. That's not true. And even more so now with the way that things are going, this NAR settlement is the wholesaler's wet dream
come true. Yes, I'm so thrilled about this new way of doing it.
Oh my God, it creates so much confusion and complexity. And if we understand how to operate in it, we can come in and just really just like butter. We can get in there, create comfort, figure out the ambiguity and the nonsense of how we're getting paid, solve the problem for the seller, and get a great deal in return.
Yeah, you know, it was interesting when I explained that to her. She said, I'm a single mom. I would love to not have to run around and show properties and all the things, right? So she gets it. She's totally on board with like, oh my gosh, yeah, if I can just call you and we can work it out and not go on market, that's every agent's dream. If they understand it, that's an amazing opportunity for those agents. So they win, seller wins, because the seller doesn't have to deal with all the drama either. Everybody wins. So here's how it has to work now is on the buyer side, you have to sign a buyer's agent agreement with your buyer prior to really showings and making offers.
Yeah.
And the seller can no longer advertise the commission to the buyer. It still can be paid by the seller, but that's just negotiated each and every time.
Yeah.
And so what a lot of buyers will do, especially investors, I think, is since they're, capitalized, is they can just pay the buyer's agent directly and not ask the seller.
Okay.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about the net to the seller.
Right.
I'm always factoring that in, but I'm more than happy to pay you and pay you well to be the buyer's agent on distressed real estate that we can buy that's for investing, right? Because again, if I know you're out there sitting down with sellers every day and you're running across distressed real estate, that's what we're looking for. In essence, you're out there bird dogging for me and bringing good deals, and I'll compensate you well for that.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that opportunity. Only a fraction of my business is distressed properties, but I live. Do you know the Detroit?
I've been investing there for 20 years. So Oakland and Macomb mostly.
So I live in Grosse Pointe Park, which is a block and a half from Blight in Detroit.
Okay.
There's big disparities in a lot of distressed properties within a half hour of me, I'd say. If we were able to work something out of this property or in the future, I'd be open to that.
Yeah.
So
great.
stop it there.
So she's saying that, I don't really run into a lot of distressed real estate. And the reason why is because she's not intentionally trying to. But then she says, look, I live in an area. She basically lives on the edge of Detroit. She's like, I live in an area where there's lots of distressed real estate. So if we can work this out, this will be great. In other words, I'm now going to be looking for this opportunity.
Yep.
See that?
You opened up an entire new vertical of business for her, which again, guys, is really important when you can position yourself with your real estate agent as somebody that they can rely on and performs, which is the confidence that Jerry is creating in this conversation, from his knowledge of how to deal with the soggy bottom to his knowledge on how to deal and handle with the situation with the commissions, to his knowledge and how to deal with structuring future deals and how she can add to her business. I mean, this conversation couldn't go better in all the different ways, right? He's teeing it up, and he's painting a picture in this agent's mind, which elevates his status in her mind of how trustworthy, competent, and if he's going to perform or not. And that's just going to give her a tremendous amount of confidence in going to her seller and getting Jerry's price accepted.
Yeah. And Jamil, I'm going to pull a chapter out of the Jamil playbook here. You notice I said compensate you well, but I didn't really say, well, what does that even mean? I mean, to me, it means more than 3%. That way, this is like really, really cool. But what I'm going to do now is exactly what you do, which is once we complete this transaction and we get this under our belt, I'm going to sit down with her. I'm going to say, look, when I said that I'll compensate you well, I mean, like, this is going to be a really cool thing for you. And now that opens that conversation to participating in the back end, or, exactly what this might look like in an upfront compensation in the form of a commission. And I'm going to present to her an opportunity that will more than trump any type of regular commission she gets in the marketplace.
Love it.
You could even do it where you tell the seller there's no commission you have to pay at all. It's all being taken care of from my investor. He's handling it. If you want, you could
more creativity.
You cover me on the list side, and I've got a buyer, and he'll take care of the other side. Don't worry about it. It's no longer just a set thing like it used to be. It's all negotiable. So
when I do this now, I get it.
And do you see how this makes the listing appointment so much better for this real estate agent too? Because he's basically, Jerry's arming the agent with how to handle a list. Look, right now, listing agents have to sit down with their sellers and say, okay, here's how it's going to work. You're going to do a 3% listing with me, and we have no idea how the buyer's agent is going to get paid. Traditionally, you were going to pay it, and I know you're open to paying it. Sir, are you, or ma'am, are you open to paying a 3% buyer's agent commission? Cool. How I'm going to be able to inform a buyer's agent about that, I still don't know. If it's smoke signal, if it's like, emojis in the description, I'm not quite sure how we're gonna get that information across. Maybe it's gonna be through phone call or whatever it is.
Yeah, she says when I do a listing now, I get she'll hear her say it. I get thousands of calls from buyer's agents asking if the seller will pay it. What a mess!
What a mess, and what a waste of time.
Yeah,
right?
what a waste of time.
And so now she doesn't even got to deal with it because Jerry says, hey, we're just taking that right off the table. Right out the gate, you can sit down, and that's going to help this agent win more listings. She's going to win more listings because she can go in and say, hey, I have an investor buyer who is going to take this entire ambiguity off the table. He's going to pay me. You can keep all the net proceeds to yourself, and we're going to come to you with an unconditional offer at a specific price that you get to keep the entire net on. What a dream real estate agent that person became now. That's the most powerful agent in the market.
Yeah, that's going to be so powerful for agents to be able to tell sellers, you don't have to worry about the commission at all. I got it handled with my buyer. How amazing is that?
Are you seeing this? Are you seeing how to frame this? Are you seeing how you can use these tools to your advantage to get out there and really make yourself so much more attractive to a real estate agent than ever before? Don't look at the NAR ruling as something that's to your disadvantage. Use this to your advantage.
Yeah, and let's take a second here before we jump back to the video, Jamil. By now, if you guys are in this series, then you know that Jamil and I are doing a live workshop. And this is going to be like this call on steroids, where as you go through the call, we're going to be right there over your shoulder, in your ear, real-time feedback, breaking down your calls on deals, either listed properties or outreach. and really coaching you like Jamil's doing and I'm doing, where we're breaking this down. Imagine your own calls in your own market, your own agents, your own relationships. Imagine that. That's going to be one of the most powerful workshops I've ever put on. I think Jamil, you too as well.
Absolutely.
And this is, guys, if you just go to jerryandjamil.com, you can see a page there where we talk a little bit about it, where you can sign up for that workshop. It is going to be small group setting. So that way you get lots of attention and we can really dive into you, your business, your goals, your agent model. And the goal here is that, I think initially you can create a 6-figure income just with agents, no other marketing channels. But honestly, Jamil, I didn't think this in the past until maybe the past couple of years where I've seen it. You can create $1 million a year business with just agents. You literally can. You're living proof of that. You actually do it, Jamil, with one agent that you do over $1 million in revenue. Yeah. So guys, imagine having 20, 25, 30 relationships with agents where you're doing ongoing deals. That's $1 million a year business.
Absolutely. With again, no marketing expense.
No marketing budget.
Wow. What a dream.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. So guys, check that out.
You're not cold calling sellers. You're not getting hung up on. How many times did the agent cuss at Jerry in this call, by the way?
Yeah, not once. She was cool the whole time.
Right? Like, wouldn't you rather have calls with people where it went this way, where people were kind and they were all incentivized to work in the spirit of the deal, and you weren't calling and badgering somebody during dinner and pointing out how the fact that they're in distress because they haven't paid their mortgage and their life is terrible and they're hiding from their creditors right now. That's such a hard conversation. It's like an energy suck versus this very upbeat, very helpful conversation, which is solving a problem for a seller, a real estate agent, and an investor at the same time.
Yeah, it's so true. You know, what's great about it, Jamil, this is a really good point. I never really thought about it, but every time we're doing these conversations and every time we're creating these relationships with agents, everything we're doing is with a seller who already identified that they want to sell. We're not trying to uncover, like, do you want to sell? That's already been established, whether it's direct on a listing or whether it's an outreach situation. We're dealing with a situation where there's already a seller who wants to sell a distressed piece of real estate.
Right. And that is, you guys know, that's a hard one to figure out.
That's a hard one to figure out. And you get to bypass all of that rejection that you get with direct to seller. You know, you and I both do direct to seller, and man, it's brutal when you're getting F-bombed and chased off the porch and all the things from sellers that we're just outreaching to, cold outreach or marketing to, where we're trying to identify, hey, do you even want to sell? With agents, we skip all that. We're right to, of course they want to sell. That's why we're talking. No commission you have to pay at all. It's all being taken care of from my investor.
Disparities in a lot of distressed properties within a half hour of me, I'd say. If we were able to work something out on this property or in the future, I'd be open to that.
Yeah, great. I mean, you could even do it where you tell the seller there's no commission you have to pay at all. It's all being taken care of from my investor. He's handling it. If you want, you could either say, hey, you cover me on the list side and I've got a buyer and he'll take care of the other side. Don't worry about it. It's no longer just a set thing like it used to be. It's all negotiable. So
when I do list now, I get 1,000 calls from every agent saying, are they going to pay buyer's agent commission?
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, what a step backwards this feels like in terms of creating more work and less clarity. But maybe you understand the upside better than I.
I'm just pivoting and adapting with what is.
What do you have in mind for this property today?
So good, dude. It's so good.
So now we're going to move into how to handle this particular property.
Yep. And Jerry laid the groundwork on how we can work together in the future, how you can position yourself better with a seller, how you can create more clarity, how I can be an agent for more money in your pocket, stop you from having to run around as a single mom showing houses, and stop you from having to take 1,000 buyer agents call asking whether or not they're going to pay a commission. Let me just solve all of your problems, which he just did. And now let's get to the house.
Yeah. And before we jump back to it, and we overcame this issue of her normal standard policy of not doing dual agencies. That was her position before, was, nah, I'd rather not be on the buyer side, just the listing side. I don't want to do that. And now she's like, oh yeah, let's do that. Let's do this like crazy. Right?
Think about the ethics of it, right? Because in her mind, she feels like, I feel bad going to a seller and having a seller pay me twice. Right?
Yeah.
That's what it is. And the reality is, she's like, I don't mind if a seller pays me and you pay me. That doesn't bother me at all, because like that feels good to me, actually, because nobody's overpaying me. But she has a problem with a seller paying her twice, which is fair.
Yeah,
right?
It's a fair argument.
Like, it's fair if a seller pays me. It's fair if a buyer pays me. Well, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So you just totally crossed the ethical boundary or the ethical bridge that she was having to cross in order for her to be able to see how she can make more money. You made it make sense to her, and you made her be able to actually sleep at night by making more money, which is phenomenal.
Awesome. Yep.
Touch base with you later in the day after I see how things go, or do you have an offer you'd like?
I've got a number I want to be at, but I also don't want it to slip away for a few bucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is there a way I could have like last shot at it?
I mean, everything's up to the seller. Everything I do,
So stop it there. So remember, guys, earlier in the call, she said, I've got a couple of parties going out today to make offers. Now, I'm supposing that she told them the same thing, which was, seller wants an offer today. He wants this thing gone. Go out there and give me your best shot. So I know now that I'm up against a handful of other investors that are going to be offering on this property. So I'm real careful here now. This is I got to be very tactful about how I do this, but I'm basically now going to go for a move here, which is, can I have last shot at this?
And why last shot? Because Jerry wants to know what the other offers are so that he can come in and beat them, right? If Jerry takes the last shot, he's going to know, essentially, hey, this man came or this lady came in at 165. This guy came in at 171. Jerry's either got to beat that, or he's got to beat by price, or he's got to beat it by terms, right? Either way, Jerry understands what he's up against so that he can position himself with the kill shot. And that's why he wanted to be the last.
Yeah. And remember, this doesn't always go the way you want it to. Like, this is where how much certainty did you portray to the agent where they'll work with you this way? If you do a poor job of creating certainty and making a connection and building relationship, and this is why I laid out an ongoing relationship, because now she's looking at me as someone that we're going to do a lot of future business together before asking her for last shot. See how that's important?
Yep.
Because now in her mind, she's like, okay, this is someone where we're going to do a lot of business with. I better give him last shot on this deal. Whereas imagine if I asked that first, I wouldn't have been positioning myself very well.
Right. And guys, in case you're wondering, well, why does it matter? Well, sometimes listing agents don't feel like it's fair to give someone last shot, because now they're disclosing, this guy came in here, this guy came in here. Now, again, last shot might make it better for the seller. So there's nothing ethically wrong with giving Jerry the information, as long as all the parties are aware of what's going on. But sometimes listing agents have a dilemma. They want it all blind. They want it to be, okay, nobody knows what's going on here. So then that way, if Jerry was going to come in with like an absurd number, let's just say, and this happens sometimes when there's no context and you're like, it's just blind offers, highest and best. One guy comes in at 160, one guy comes in at 165, and one guy comes in at 190. And that poor sucker has to pay 190 now because he didn't know that 165 was the highest middle offer in there. And so Jerry doesn't want to overpay, but he wants to make sure that he's doing this in a way where he can still provide the best number to the seller and get everything done for themselves.
Yeah. And if they're reluctant, which some are, like you said, if they're reluctant to, give specifics, then there's a vague way of doing this. So what I'll say to the agent is I'll say, look, I get it if you don't want to, let me know where the other ones are at, so I know where to be. Maybe just, I've done this before. I'll say, maybe just, I'll tell you my number and you wink. Like, yeah, that'll get it done. Or maybe you just tell me, hey, if you nudge it a little bit, I think you might have a shot. Like, and now they're feeling like, okay, I'm not really telling him what everybody else is at, but I'm sort of giving him a little bit of an advantage. And I just keep asking, I keep pressing, I keep, like when someone says no, that doesn't mean no. It just maybe means no, not right now. Or it means, find a way to reposition what you're asking for so that they'll give you what you're looking for.
Right.
Right. So in this case, because I did such a good job portraying future business and a long-term relationship, she had no problem agreeing to this. So you'll hear her basically say she would do that. I guess what I mean is, hey, if you could be at this number with these terms, that would get it done.
Yeah.
In the perfect world, I'd want to be at 170. Okay, stop it there. So this is a great strategy that I use with off market too. What I'll say is in the perfect world, I would like to be at. Now, why that's powerful is because it's not a definitive offer. Okay. And that's important because if I say to her, my highest and best is 170, then I look like an idiot when I say, well, actually I can go up to 172. It doesn't feel very honest or authentic when then I come up on that price. Correct. So that's why I'm saying to her, in the perfect world, I want to be at 170. It's allowing me to tell her a number, but it's also giving me a little bit of leeway if I need to.
Here's the thing. He told
170.
Here's the thing. He told me he just wants this done today. So a week ago, I never would have thought we'd be talking about a deal below 180. But in a few hours, I'll have a better idea if that's what it's going to come to.
Okay. Well, that's where I'd like to be. But then if you could let me know, like, hey, come in here and we can get it done because you're close.
Well, we already have someone right there. I already have more confidence in you based on our conversation. Not that you've sent me anything yet. Usually I don't have a lot of confidence in sight unseen offers, but clearly you've bought a lot of properties in this area.
Well, you know what I could do too? Maybe this will be helpful. Let me get a hold of my basement guy and see if he can get out there like right now.
I'm going to be there at 2. I'm showing it from like 2 o'clock and a 2:15. So I could meet him there a little bit before that or a little bit after that.
Because then what I could do is I could waive my contingency and then my offer will be even stronger to your seller.
That would be huge. One of these already doesn't have a inspection contingency. He was already there himself and knows what he's looking at. So that would
I got to get that done because I have to beat another similar offer.
Pause. That was a huge piece of information that she gave to Jerry because now he knows he's got to come in without a contingency. And so he's got to position his price accordingly. He's got to position his terms accordingly. And he knows that there's just no inspection period because they need this certified done today. He doesn't want a nursing home. He doesn't want to think another night about this home.
Yeah. So guys, think about this. If I come in with a contingency about that basement, which would be the right thing to do because I don't want to agree to a price and then I find out I got a $20,000 basement repair, right? That wouldn't be smart. But she just said to me, we have an offer. It's right there, meaning it's really close to 170 and they have no contingency because they've already looked at it and they're already okay with the basement. So that just told me, okay, I have to compete with that. How do I compete with that? I also have to have a no contingency. Otherwise, the seller is for sure going to take that one over mine because that one's certain and mine's not because I could back out now if I have a contingency.
And remember, the agent said, I just want this done today.
Yeah.
So that means no contingencies, guys. That means that this had to get done today. He wants to be able to go to bed tonight knowing his property is sold.
And because this is such a common occurrence in that market, I literally, after this call, I called the basement guy and I said, you got to be there in a half an hour. And he's like, I'll change all my other appointments. I'll head there right now. I'll take care of you because I've done so much business with him. And this is the power of having the right contacts and the right boots on the ground and knowing the nuance of your market. Like you said, in Arizona, it might be totally different. It might be, a pool issue or a sun issue or some other thing. It might be a mold issue somewhere else. It might be whatever it is. Every market's going to have their nuance. Your job as a wholesaler is to know what that is in your market and be ready to anticipate it so that you can get things done quickly. Because I got till if he says, Jerry, I can't get out there, or if I can't find a contractor to look at that basement, literally in the next couple of hours, I miss out on this deal because seller's making a decision at the end of the day.
That would be huge. One of these already doesn't have a inspection contingency. He was already there himself and knows what he's looking at. So that would
I got to get that done because I have to beat another similar offer that has no contingency.
Correct.
But just know that we can get a number locked up and solid today. I don't want to miss it. So I'll call my guy. I'll see if he can get there at like 1:30. Then he'll tell me like what the number is. Then I'll have a whole lot more certainty on, that bottom line cash price.
Yeah. I live nearby, so I just need like 15 minutes lead time to get there.
Perfect.
There's a lockbox and an alarm. Okay.
Awesome. That sounds great.
Perfect. Okay. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks.
We'll be in touch shortly.
Thanks,
Okay,
Laura.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
So Jamil, just so you know, so everybody knows, the follow-up call was she basically said, so I had the basement guy go out there. He told me $7,500. We'll fix this whole issue. Not a problem. So then I call her back at the end of the day. She says, I've got 2 offers at 175 And remember, I don't have a buyer's agent, so I'm also using that as leverage. There's no buyer's agent. She said, I don't need to get paid on the buyer side on this one. So the seller now is only paying 3% with me versus which is 6% with the other two offers, because the other two offers came in with buyer's agent commissions and they asked the seller to pay their 3%.
And do you know if the other offers were contingent or non-contingent at 175?
One had a contingency, one didn't. And they both, one was at 174, one at 175.
Okay, so guys, we're like neck and neck, right?
Yeah.
The 174, no contingency, is basically Jerry's neck and neck there, because they're going to pay 3%. What's 3% of 174? You got to calculate
about $5,000.
$5,000. So like he's right there. Jerry's at 170. They're at 170. Now this is all about confidence. Who wins the confidence game?
Yep. Yeah. And what she said was on that, which I recorded the call. Maybe we'll do another one on the second call. But basically what she said was, she said, I like you. We're going with you. The seller, I told the seller I've got 3 offers. I went over them briefly with him. And he told me, pick the best one that you feel is the right one. So the seller has lots of confidence in this agent to make the right call. They're neck to neck, right? And she's like, I'm going with you. I'm going to print it off. I'm going to go meet him at the nursing home in the morning and sign. Now, one other thing I did here, Jamil, on that second call, which I didn't do on this call, was I said, tell me about earnest money. And she's like, okay, the earnest monies are low. They're like $1,000 with both of them. And so I said, I'll make mine 5,000. Now, I didn't really have to do that, but what I wanted to do is I just wanted to push me over the edge as the best offer.
Yep.
And I'm able to do that. Not everybody's able to do a $5,000 earnest money, right? Like I get it. If you can't do it, you can't do it. There's ways around that. Like maybe you borrow it or whatever. But I didn't compromise price, but I'm giving a bigger earnest money. And again, I'm just trying to show her more certainty, more confidence in me by doing that.
That's it. Great call, Jerry. Great call. Guys, remember, Jerry and I are doing a workshop where we're going to be breaking down your calls, essentially as you're on the phone, giving you real-time advice, real-time instruction, getting you to a point where at the end of the time with us, you're going to be just as good on the phones as Jerry and myself. You're going to feel incredibly prepared to have these really great connections with real estate agents that are going to end up paying you in the future hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in your business, all for a $0 lead generation strategy. Couldn't be better.
Yeah. And we're going to be hanging out. Both Jamil and I are going to be right there with you. It's like a 4-day event, you know, between all the days that we're doing this. So it's a lot of time for us to really spend time with you. We're gonna be doing some fun stuff too, small group setting. I mean, we're so excited about it. There's a bonus day where Jamil and I are going to be doing a lot of content where you can be there with us. So it's going to be really powerful, one of a kind type of thing. We don't know if we're going to do it again. Both Jamil and I are really busy running all of our different businesses. And so just the fact that we've carved out some time to do this is pretty amazing. So guys, don't miss this, because it might be the only chance you get to do something like this. So guys, again, that link, you can see it in the description below this video, or if you just go to jerryandjamil.com, then you can register for that training. There is a cost to it, but it's one of those things where, Jamil, I think by the end of the time with us, you'll already have, 100x'd your investment in the event. So Absolutely. It's that powerful. Awesome. Well, again, thank you, Jamil. Appreciate you guys. Again, there's also a playlist link to all of these videos. If you're coming in this series, at any given time, make sure you're watching them in order, because the way that Jamil and I did this was it was very sequential how we broke the business down with agents. So go back to the beginning, watch it in order, and let us know too if you'd like us to keep adding videos like this one, keep doing breakdowns and other types of hands-on training. And Jamil and I will keep providing value to you in this form. So appreciate you, Jamil. Love you, man.
Take care, folks.
Thank you, everybody.